This episode of the Postpartum Standard is brought to you by the Coeur d'Alene Resort in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Welcome back to the Postpartum Standard. I'm joined today by Danielle Zamarelli. Danielle, thank you so much for joining.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Tony. This is so fun.
Of course. Well, let's jump in. Tell us who you are, what you're building, how you became a mom, all the things.
Sure. So I've been a nurse anesthetist. The acronym is CRNA for 5 years, and I've been a nurse for 12 years. So a lot of people don't know what CRNAs are, but we're anesthesia providers, and you have to do a bit of ICU nursing before you can go to anesthesia school and pursue this path. I graduated from Emory University in 2013 as a nurse. I went right to the ICU and I worked for about 4.5 years. And then I went to anesthesia school at Penn in Philadelphia and became a CRNA and then sort of climbed the clinical ladder. I started training students and then I became a clinical coordinator that's responsible for the training of many students at the same time. Then I became a chief nurse anesthetist and I supervised 17 CRNAs at the Philadelphia VA, which was very, very rewarding. And then my husband and I started to decide, okay, maybe we're ready to have a child. So I had a baby October 18th, 2024, and I had a second-degree tear and I could not sit. And it was awful. And I've done sort of entrepreneurial things here and there. But when I experienced this with my background in nursing and pain management, that's a big part of anesthesia. The donut the hospital gave me was terrible. I was personally offended by it, honestly. It's a toxic slab of foam that is hard as a rock. My baby was in the NICU for a little bit and they would wheel me back and forth. And it was just like sitting on knives. It was the most uncomfortable thing. So I was like, I have to do something about this. And in a moment of desperation at 3 a.m., breastfeeding my daughter, I was like, I cannot tolerate this anymore. And there has to be a better way. And as you know, too, Tony, like the products for women, especially in the postpartum pregnancy, this whole maternal wellness space are kind of like slim pickings. So I was like, we need to do better. I'm going to make this cushion. I stuffed together a bunch of pillows and blankets and just my knowledge of the body and pain relief. I was like, we need complete suspension of our bottom while we heal. And so that was sort of the genesis of it. Like 3 weeks postpartum, I went on an unhinged mission to develop this cushion for women, now called the Tush Present. And then I teamed up with one of my friends from college who was on an IVF journey and now pregnant with twins. And she had a background in retail doing a swimsuit business. She was very interested in joining. So now we're a little over a year later. We sell our product. We've helped lots of women, and now it's really big for back support. So posture is really important. So here I sit on that. These are both of our versions, but now it's sort of a support tool for the entire journey. And that was probably a much longer explanation than you wanted of my entire life story.
No, I love it. That is so amazing. I mean, my next question was going to be like, what problems did you see that made you solve
Yeah.
this? That is so cool. And I can't even tell you how many moms I've talked to who would have benefited from this. I've already sent it to another friend of mine who definitely needs
Oh,
it right
thank
now.
you.
And it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's so needed. I had a C-section, so my healing was completely different. But
But Tony, wasn't it also hard to get up and down out of a chair?
yes, yeah,
That's the huge thing we've learned with the back supports. All chairs have a natural recline. You tell me if you experience this or not. When you sit in a reclined chair, the C-section incision like tugs and pulls, and
yes,
then you're like crunching over it. So C-section moms have actually bought it to reduce the, recline and then up because
nice.
it's just more easy to get into and out of a chair, the couch, a bed, even couches, like they're so deep. Or when you're breastfeeding, so that
Yeah.
there's less of that backward recline. It's
That's so
tough. The
smart.
C-section is like a major surgery, and people don't realize.
Yes. It was very wild, totally unplanned. We tried to do a home birth and my daughter was breech and not having it. So
Gosh, was
we had
that
to
a
do the
little
pivot.
traumatic for you, the whole thing?
Yeah, it all kind of like it happened like kind of slowly. Like I had been in labor for like 36 hours, but my contractions never got closer than like 7 minutes apart because there was no like downward pressure. She just wasn't moving down. Her little like butt was just stuck down there.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't dilating and none of that. And so when the midwives came over and assessed me and explained all this, I was like, let's just do a hospital transfer because I want to be like as in control of this situation as possible. So we like slowly packed our little hospital bag and I already had a list. I'm very type A, so I had lots of lists. Like
You
I
were
had it written out
ready.
like plan and yeah. And so we went to the hospital and my doula is also a photographer. She was able to come in the OR and like take photos, which was really cool. And I think like I had it pretty easy. Like I was kind of up and moving around a couple days later, but I was just always shoving pillows behind me, under me. Like my chiropractor gave us these like little triangle shaped pillows that were so perfect for nursing. They're definitely not made for that, but I had them like
Yeah.
under my elbows and behind my back. And it,
Cool.
I
Yeah.
own so many pillows now from like the postpartum period and
I
pregnancy.
know.
Just
I know.
like
My husband loves the pregnancy, the sleeping pillow. He's like obsessed with it. He's like, "This is my pillow. Where's my pregnancy pillow?" It's like, and I'm like,
my
I
husband
can't.
uses the little one.
He does. Yeah, I'm like, I don't even want to look at this anymore, you know? Like, I can't even look at this.
So when you think about like birth and using the pillow, maybe before, like during pregnancy, what are like the problems with posture that you see? But like I learned personally that sitting Indian style is like promotes breech babies, and nobody told me that until after I had a breech baby. And I literally sit Indian style all day, every day. So
Yeah,
anybody listening while you're
it's.
pregnant, stop sitting Indian style.
I mean, y- I'm sure both of us can speak this and really like feel this. There, as a healthcare person, right, who spends so many years in training and in the hospital and learning about the body, the pregnancy and postpartum experience was so humbling, continues to be. I have learned so much that, you know, in an anesthesia world, we focus a lot on like the lungs, how you shift your breathing, right? When you're having a baby, everything is getting pushed up. That's why you're out of breath so often. And so there's all these body changes, like you're saying, you didn't know that sitting Indian style promotes breech. I actually didn't know that like posture is so important, which sounds like duh, you know? Like I look back and I'm like, obviously that's important, but I didn't realize until the Tush Present journey really, and I'm learning every day more and more reasons why posture and alignment are so important. Um, and when you think about that, our body, like the first trimester, you might know this already, but your body releases something called relaxin to make a hormone to make everything like looser, right? And the whole journey, your body is changing to accommodate growing a human being and creating it from scratch. So things are stretching, they're pulling, your body's trying to make more space. And so posture, and I always have to be careful because we're a wellness product and I'm a nurse. So I always want to talk about all of these nursey things. And then I get like flagged on TikTok and stuff for making medical claims. And I'm like, we're just talking about the body. This is all the same, But basically, your body has to make space for that human. And better posture is very helpful to your overall wellness on the journey. I was just filmed a video even in the fourth trimester, there's something called rib flare, where like when you have the baby, do you know about this already? You're
A little
nodding like you know.
bit. Yeah, we see a chiropractor like very regularly. I
Okay.
started while I was pregnant, and we go as a family like twice a week. I have been down this
Wow.
posture rabbit hole because it's the alignment is so important.
Yeah. And this is something that like humbles me every day, but I have, my rib cage expanded, and one of the ways to help this is better posture. It expands for everyone like up to 3 inches while the baby is growing. But for some people, it goes back down. But for other people, it doesn't. And there's all these sorts of things like breathing exercises and pelvic floor physical therapy. But one of the major things is posture. So it's like really through the first through the fourth trimester, that posture is so important. And that's why really we're saying now, after women coming back to us and saying, I love this for back support because it's like the firmness. And I'm just going to show you, I'm double tushing at the moment because this chair is deep. But basically, all these chairs are so reclined. It's
Yeah.
like insane. So even like one helps you with your posture. And then you probably know too, when you sit and work at a desk, it's so hard to stay upright, but it's a reminder and it's firm enough. And that's really can help, especially women that work from home or work at a desk all day and you're not moving around. Your back hurts because your whole center of gravity is shifted. And then you have this baby, everything gets pushed up. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of pulling. So being upright is just like crucial. Is this what your chiropractor says?
Yes, yeah. They're always harping on like sit up straight, have good posture, and like the adjustments
Yeah.
help with that. And like that's why I think it was like early second trimester that I started going twice a week, and then by the end of my pregnancy, I was going 3 times a week because I'm really short. I have a very short torso, and so like making space in there was just doing all sorts of weird things to my back, and like my body was just trying to like compensate, and I would get super out of alignment in my hips and like all these different places. And so I specifically found like a neurological chiropractor that was Webster certified. So she's trained on like pregnant women and babies, and she's also a mom. And so it was like the biggest game changer for me when I started doing that. And my daughter, because she was breech, came out with breech legs where like she would lay on her back and her little legs would just go up in the air like this. And she couldn't lay flat on her back comfortably. So even as a newborn, she never slept on her back. She was a side sleeper or a stomach sleeper, and now like side and stomach. But we started taking her to the chiropractor, I think the first time she was like 6 days old. To kind of like make adjustments and get her more comfortable. And she also would only latch like well on one side. Like she favored one side over the other because she had a bunch of tightness in her neck. And so she couldn't like turn the other way. And it was amazing what the chiropractic care did for that. Like within 3 weeks of like consistently going, she was latching great on both sides, and she could actually like we would lay her down and change her diaper, and her legs would stay flat. And like she also is very agile, and I don't know if that's her dad is very agile and very athletic, but I think part of it is just the chiropractic like being in alignment. Her body's just been able to develop like quickly and well, efficiently. So she's
That's amazing.
yeah, it's wild. Like I'm such a huge fan of chiropractic for
Yeah, I
every
mean, yeah, like, you know, being a nurse and spending so much time in a hospital environment, the mindset is just so different than I think sometimes what it should be, right? Like, you went to the chiropractor and they helped you and your family with posture and alignment. These are like non invasive, basic tools that improve your wellness every single day. It's not a medication, it's not an IV infusion, it's not a surgery. And just taking those preventative measures in small ways can change your whole life. Like your baby not latching is one of the most stressful things ever. Like
Yeah.
they're crying, you're like, how many more pillows can I stuff by? Yeah. And then it's like, so yeah, I think also that's been really great for me with the Tush Present, is like these things. Sometimes I'm like, it's a cushion. And other times I'm like, no, it's the promotion of this way of life that through non-invasive methods, right? Toxin free, non endocrine disruptive things, you can make major changes just by thinking about your posture every day, which is something a lot of us don't think about because we're so focused like on our phone or on the laptop or typing, and we get like hunched, and especially when you're pregnant or postpartum, it's not great. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Because you're lacking that like core strength to hold yourself up and you're tired. And so like
yes.
it's so much easier to fall into bad posture. Let's talk a little bit about the non-toxic standpoint because this is something that's like super close to my
I
heart.
know,
Obviously, like
I know. I listened
I
to the postpartum standard, before, and I heard that.
yeah,
Yes.
that's I the whole reason that I founded Hone was like I couldn't find any nursing dresses that were also made of non-toxic materials. Like we cut out polyester from our life entirely. Like yes, we still have like a rain jacket here or there, like something that you can't help, like there's no alternative, but it's something that's like not on the skin. And that was my husband and I agreed before our daughter was born, no polyester on her. Like we're doing all natural fibers. We do like cotton and wool, and we kind of avoid like anything other than cotton and wool pretty much with her. And
How did you come to that in your life? Like before you had her, how did you find out about the polyester?
yeah, so I've been on kind of like a natural minded journey for probably like 10 years at this point. I had really bad hormonal acne in my 20s. And that kind of like started me on this like investigative journey because I was like, why am I having this? What's causing this? I could tell it was hormonal just by like where it was. And I didn't like the doctor's answer of like, here, just try a different birth control. I ultimately like
Always.
birth control. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to take a pill every day. I want to make like sustainable life changes. And it actually started with me just, I read an article one day that talked about how nail polish has endocrine disruptors in it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's like soaking into your skin through your nails. And so I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to the nail salon anymore. So I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was just kind of like the gateway because it just like started me in the rabbit hole of like investigating all of this stuff. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to get rid of like my plastic water bottle and my nonstick cookware. And like, it's just kind of snowballed. And then about 4 years ago, I cut out fragrance in our life, like entirely. Like every single thing in the house that said fragrance on it got phased out. And it took a while because I couldn't just like throw everything away and start over. But like as I was buying new stuff, every time I went to buy something, I would like do more research, which leads to more things that you want to avoid.
Yes.
But it was like after I did that, within a month of cutting out fragrance, my hormonal acne was gone and I've never had it since. That was like the final piece that I was missing. And my husband at the time, like we were just dating and he had fragrance in his house, as most people do, air fresheners and all of that stuff. And then once he moved in, he kind of got used to not having it. And it was so funny. He had these like old plastic bins that we ended up throwing away because the fragrance had just leached into them. And anytime I went in the garage, I could smell them. Anything that was in them had the fragrance. And I was like, oh my gosh, the chemicals that must be in this to like cause it to permeate the plastic and be in there for years is just insane. And like that should not be in our body. And
It,
that just kind
totally.
of like snowballed. And then Mount Sinai, actually, there's a doctor there doing research about polyester and like leaching PFAS and impacting fertility. And so when we decided to start trying to get pregnant, that was when I really was like, okay, I'm getting rid of my leggings that are polyester and all of this. There was a study done where they made dogs wear pants. And I don't know if you've read this study, but like they
No,
make
but it
dogs
sounds
wear,
amazing.
it's
Do
so
they
they
have
made them wear,
photos? Because I would love to see.
they actually have like diagrams in the research, but they
Wow.
tested with polyester pants with a 50-50 blend of polyester and cotton, then cotton pants. And the dogs that wore the 50-50 or the polyester became infertile. Like they could not get pregnant for like months after they stopped wearing the pants. And the 100% polyester, it took even longer than the 50/50. But I read that and then the fertility stuff, and I was like, okay, I do not want to do that anymore. And then this last summer, the same doctor published research that actually links like an accumulation of microplastics in your body to an increased risk of type 2 diabetes, which is crazy because when you look at the numbers, like there is an increase in occurrence of type 2 diabetes. And now I'm like, okay, well, it's easy to see why, because microplastics are in everything.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. You can really go down the rabbit hole, you know? But I think about this stuff a lot. You know, when we started the Tush Present, really, it was going to be made of foam because there is a very popular product that I use postpartum. I'm sure many a women use it as it's a breastfeeding tool. And the density of that was ideal. So I needed a material that's suspended the whole perineum, right, which is like the vag to tush area, in the air. I'm like, how do I achieve this? So I said, well, that's a pretty good foam, and I think we could do it like that. So I bought foam, a lot of it, and I opened it, and my baby is on this, her little baby chair, like 6 weeks old. I unbox the foam. I'm cutting it up. It smells terrible. It's like off gassing in our house everywhere. I'm like, gosh, this really smells bad. And I start doing research. I talked to Lauren, who we worked together on this project. She was going through IVF. She had been on a 2-year journey, right? And done a lot of research on endocrine disruptors and all this stuff. And so we started going in on foams. And we're like, oh my gosh, this stuff is super toxic and not what we want near our bodies, a healing wound, our skin, our babies in our homes. So it became like, how do we find the material that we can use that is 100% toxin free and non-endocrine disruptive? And I knew I had watched this documentary a while ago, and I forget what it was called, but it was about waste and how all of these products that we create just go in landfills.
Oh my gosh,
and like a lot with returns, and how, a big company was sort of throwing all their returns in the trash because it was easier. So now we have so much waste. So I was like, all right, if I'm going to be a business owner and we're going to be in people's homes, touching their bodies, impacting their lives every single day, it has to be toxin free and somewhat of eco-friendly, because we know at some point it's going to go in the trash. And so we researched for manufacturers that just do toxin-free manufacturing.
Yeah.
And like low eco footprint, the low carbon footprint. And we found this substance called kapok, which grows on a bean in a tree in the rainforest. So we're 100% USA made by women. Our fill, though, comes from trees in rainforests, and you crack the bean open and it comes out, and it's like the softest thing. I can actually show it to you here. But what feels really good is you can plant it back in the ground when you're done. So isn't that cool? Yeah. So in addition, I feel like the sun is really up in our space, but it's like really, I mean, you could tell the all natural nature of it, but it's super soft. And then that also allowed for the customizability of the cushion. Like you can take the fill out, put it back in.
Yeah.
But I will say, Tony, like this toxin journey, like I just had no idea. I think it was like, I don't know how, but this journey made me understand more, like how yours did with the acne. Like I really was not aware of all the toxins floating around every single day in all of these products. Every single cushion that I bought postpartum, and I bought like everything, was like 100% toxic. I had no clue, you know? So now it's like, great, we can provide something that we know isn't going to harm women and their babies. And, they won't be breathing in some toxin. They're not going to be like having any leaching of these endocrine disruptors through, their skin or their healing wounds. So I felt like if we were going to make a product, we'd have to like feel good about it, not like people over profit, basically, because yeah, foam, it's a lot cheaper, like all this, but it's like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
for what? So we can just poison people? Like, no, thank you. That's like opposite of what we're trying to do, you
Yeah.
know?
It is wild how much more money it costs to build like a mission driven company and like stick to your values.
Yes,
And like, I'm sure you experience this, like finding a manufacturer that will like respect that and understands like your values and not just like bottom line and profit. And like, our first dress is cashmere and wool, and we wanted like a sustainable farm, and we wanted like, you know, there's also like ways that they harvest the wool and the cashmere, and we wanted to make sure that it was like cruelty free and all that stuff. And it took us, I mean, it took me like a year to find the right manufacturer, because but so many of them are just profit driven. That sucks.
absolutely. And I also think, for me, I've just sort of said to myself, while we're getting this off the ground, like it will be hard because we have a higher cost of goods sold, COGS, because we're not willing to produce toxic material cushions. I'm just not. We're not willing to like use children to produce the
Yeah.
thing, right? So we are, hand sewn by women in the United States of toxin free material. And I just said to myself, this is, we're just going to do it. We're going to figure it out. We can, over time, the more units we sell, we can get the costs down and we will take a significant hit on our profit margin and find a way to run the business and operate in the red for a little bit longer, you know. But I felt so strongly about standing by the values because it's like the postpartum standard needs to be raised. The
Yes.
whole maternal wellness standard needs to be raised. And we are leading with that. Our mission is to raise the bar for maternal wellness. And so if we can create more demand for these products, like we all benefit. It does though come at the expense, right, of like your early stage profits, and it's a lot more work, right? Because people are always like, "Oh, just make them like in China." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, that's a
Nope.
whole bag of worms, that I don't really want to get involved with at the moment or maybe ever." So it's like,
Yeah.
it's tough because people care about profit and people want to be like, yeah, and the manufacturers are taking a chance on the business owner and vice versa, and they are not willing to take a chance on everyone and they want to make sure it makes money. So it's so hard.
Yeah. I do think
I'm
that
glad
there's
you
like
found it.
me
I'm
too. I'm
glad you
glad you
found
found it
your
also. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I I think that there is like a shift because I think there's more women starting businesses that are principled businesses. They are mission driven. They're not, these women aren't starting them because they want to be billionaires. They're starting them because they see that like we can't trust the government. We can't trust the FDA's regulations on things, or like, I mean, so many things are just completely unregulated. Like nobody's regulating the contents of your apparel. And that's terrifying. And so I think there's more and more private citizens stepping in to like not regulate because we're a free market, but to provide options and educate. And I think that's the important piece. And like people seem to care more now about founder led brands and the founder story and the why. And they're like, okay, I'm willing to pay more because I know this is better for the environment and for me. And like our big thing is we are not fast fashion, and I like never ever want to be confused with that. And like we have a higher price point because what we're creating is a piece that you're going to own for 10 or 15 years. Like it's not a thing that you're just going to toss in the landfill in 2 years when it falls apart. And it costs a lot of money to make that. And I've definitely had even advisors say, like, oh, well, you should try to find a way to like make it super cheap so you can get into the market and like, gain all this traction. But I keep coming back to the principles of like, I don't want to do that. Yes, I wish that everybody could afford. I hate that we have like a resource constraint in this country, but at the same time, like I have to provide the products that I'm proud to sell and stand behind because it's my name and my family's name on them. And like, I don't ever want to put something out there and then regret it later and be like, man, I wish I wouldn't have used polyester in that.
I completely agree with you, and I'm so aligned on all of this, and I do think that is what makes it extra hard in the startup phase is what, I like a reality I experience every single day, and so it's like when I quit my job, some people were like, "Oh my gosh, you must be a millionaire because you wouldn't quit your job to do this if you weren't." And I'm like, actually, I'm not. I just feel really strongly about pursuing this. So I was very frugal and planned accordingly.
Yeah.
And I had done some real estate investing, for a couple years prior to this. And I sold a property and I prepared and I said, how much money am I going to invest in this business? Because when you're any startup, even if you're producing crap products, costs money, but when you have that commitment, it's even more. And it's like one of the a another mompreneur founder, I have to invite her to the moms group. She does non-toxic pacifiers, and she said to me, it's called Soothe Beginnings. Yeah. And she said, don't apologize for your prices, change your messaging. And I'm like,
Oh, I
that's
love
so
that.
true. Like, don't, because it's hard. It is hard. Economically, it's hard. It's hard for people. But I just try to say one day, like, we'll find a way and we'll get there and we can negotiate these prices down. And the more demand that we can create in the market for these things, the less that they will cost, you
Yeah,
know? But
absolutely.
now it's hard because we prioritize toxic things, things that are a quick fix, easy to make, things that fall apart in 2 years. And now it's sort of, I hope people, and since becoming a mom, I feel like this, these purchases are like investing in your own health
Yes. Yeah.
and the prevention of things like cancer,
Yeah.
is something from acne to cancer to diabetes. Like it's all because we're doing all these really unnatural things so frequently. And so, with my nursing background, I've seen these people that are so sick in these acute moments, and it's almost like a different mindset. Like, I feel like, in a way, we're going back to our roots as like humans of like, let food be thy medicine, and, like, focus on these mindfulness and daily actions instead of like taking a pill to do XYZ and using these like really, really invasive and highly engineered things as ways to support our health. It's like, let's get our posture and alignment organized. Let's remove fragrance from our house and polyester and all these toxic things that like years ago didn't even exist because it was like, what is this manufactured thing? You know? So I could go on forever about it.
Same. Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm so passionate about, and my husband and I always
Yeah.
say your health is your wealth, and like investing in our health is one thing that like we both always do. And we just because we've both lost family members like at a young age. I lost my sister-in-law a few years ago who was like a second mom to me to lung
I'm
cancer,
so
and she
sorry.
lost her dad, and like yeah, it's hard like losing people that close to you when you're young-ish. I mean, I wasn't like super young. I think I was 30, but it was really hard to watch and it
You weren't
really
90, like you were
yeah.
30 and you lost these also young people. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean my sister-in-law I don't even think was 50 yet. And so it's so hard like watching people in those moments and feeling so helpless. And so the one way that I kind of like reconcile that is like, okay, well, I'm going to control everything that I can in my life to try to avoid being in a similar situation. And like 80/20, I don't drive myself crazy about every little thing because, oh my gosh, there's so many rabbit holes and like every single thing in your home is toxic and trying to kill you if you read enough stuff on the internet. But like
Yes.
we just we make changes where we can, and I try to like spread the message and educate, and like that's the whole reason I started this podcast, because I feel like there's so many moms who don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, and you're trusting like, your moms or aunts, but just like what you said, they grew up in a different time period. We didn't have all this engineered stuff. We didn't have these huge conglomerations making things addictive on purpose and like generating all of these new chemicals just to like make something last 6 months longer on the shelf. And so nobody taught them to be aware of that stuff or conscious about that. And so now it's kind of like bringing that into the conversation so that people, not in a fear mongering way, but just in a like, hey, let's stop and like look at the ingredients of this, and let's think about like, if they can make this thing for a tenth of the cost of all their competitors, like what are they doing to achieve that cost savings, and what's the trade-off there? Because yeah, I might be saving money here, but am I going to spend that money later on my health, or like wish that I would have invested a little bit more so that I had more time? And like personally, I don't want to make that trade-off. Like I view everything as like I would rather spend a little more now and take care of my health and longevity.
100%. And I think since becoming a mom actually is really what shifted that mindset for me. I think before, especially honestly being in healthcare, like I had been taking call and doing 12 and 24-hour shifts for like 12 years. So when you're in the hospital, you're eating a lot of like vending machine snacks and like quick fixes and like heat up meals and stuff, And I think all of this like processed stuff is obviously really not good for you, but I think once I had a kid, I sort of was thinking like, okay, this human being really relies on me now for survival for the next 18 plus years. So I should probably start taking care of myself, know, more. And I think definitely usually nurses put everyone else first, And so I think it was a shift like, okay, I need to be well to care for this human, to be here for our family. And then you just start thinking about everything, that the baby is
Yeah.
consuming and putting in their mouth, like in a way that you didn't before. I'd be like, oh, I'll buy this because it's like a third of the cost of whatever the other thing is. And now, like you were saying, how is it a third of the cost? And like, why is it a third of the cost? And so hopefully, yeah, we'll continue. And I think I'm curious if you've had this too as like a business owner, you know, because we live in a society where you really have to do your own research, that everything is pretty much available from totally toxic to not toxic at all. And it's like on the consumer to sort of decide a lot of the time because those regulations aren't always there, right? Looking out for us and safeguarding us. And so it's on us to choose. And I think as a business owner, it's like in order to run a business and provide your service or product to people, you have to sell to be profitable, to grow and reach and help people, um, which does involve this educational piece. And I think sometimes people think, oh, you're just trying to like sell the product. So you're like
Yeah.
skewed and you're not being genuine. And I think that, I mean, people have not so outwardly said that to me, but I think it's like knowing that there's always that thought, right? That like, "Oh, they're only telling me this information to have me buy their product." When really, I think in a lot of these women owned and mom owned businesses, it's like so much energy and so much time, money, effort, blood, sweat, tears, all of it that like you would never do it if it wasn't mission minded and if it wasn't genuinely trying to help other people. And so I think sometimes it's like knowing that and just going forth with it and knowing like people are going to think whatever they think, even though this really is what's happening. No one's like making up that some of these things like polyester, are not great for our health.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how you feel about this. Maybe this is like my own mind, the
No,
inner
no,
workings of my own mind, you
I am
know?
definitely right there with you, and I think that's part of why it's, like, so important to do, like, kind of founder-led brands. Like, I try to put myself out there and explain, like, "This is why I'm starting this," because I think a lot of people see entrepreneurs and, like, female entrepreneurs, and they think, like, "Oh, well, she must have a rich husband or rich parents who are just, like, footing the bill on all of that," and they don't always understand that, like, no, it's terrifying, and, like, I'm the sole
Yes,
provider in my family, and, like, I don't have
it's
rich parents, and
terrifying. Yep.
yeah, and, like, we're figuring it out, and we're making it work because we believe so heartily in this. Like, it is on my heart, and, like, I actually resisted founding the business for months. Like, it first came up when my daughter was only, like, 6 months old. I couldn't find a strapless nursing bra, and I was like, "How is nobody making this?" And so I kind of, like,
That's
scoped
so
one out.
true.
Yeah, there
I
none
didn't
of
think
them
of that, but
there
you're right.
yeah,
You're
we're working
right.
on one. It's bringing a bra to market is, like, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's so wild because it's so technical, but we, like, filed a patent, and it's been a cool process. Maybe next year we'll launch it. But
Yeah.
I at first was like, I don't have any business being a fashion founder. Like, I've spent the last 10 years of my career in tech. Like, I run operations. I always knew that I wanted to start my own business because my parents were entrepreneurs, and I've, like, always been kind of number 2 to the CEO at startups. I couldn't imagine working for, like, a giant company. But I was like, fashion, that is not like, I have no business being in retail or any of that, but it just all of these things kept happening where moms would ask me like, "Hey, have you found a good, like, nursing option, or have you found a good strapless nursing bra, or, like, good dresses?" And I felt like the universe just kept giving me these signs of like, "Hey, this is on your heart, like, listen to it. Go for it." And so then I
Yeah.
kind of, like, tiptoed into it. It was like, "Okay, I'll do this as, like, a side project. I'll just start on the bra and, like, do that, and maybe I'll sell them on, like, Etsy or something like that." And then something happened with my day job because I still have my day job too, where I was like, "Okay, I think I need to start thinking about, like, doing this full time and, like, really building it into something." And so last year, like, I don't know, like, June is when I decided, "All right, I'm just gonna go for it and put
Nice.
everything into it." And I still have my day job, because I'm fundraising for Hone, but I'll probably leave my day job in the coming months, depending on when this airs. Maybe I'll already be gone. But I've
Yeah.
been, like,
Yeah.
really devoting just nights and weekends and everything to it, and I think showing that to people who don't know me personally helps them to understand that, like, I'm doing this for all the other moms. Like, I'm not having any more kids. I don't need nursing dresses or won't soon. Like, we're still nursing now, but it's that probably is going to end. I'm doing it for everybody who comes after me because there's just a hole in the market, and, like, women need to be supported. They need dresses that they can, like, look good in and feel good in, that isn't like sweatpants or leftover maternity and made of
Yeah.
synthetic, like, endocrine disrupting materials.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, I don't think I've ever felt more like of the importance of look good, feel good than I have in like the pregnancy and postpartum, arena. Even now, like I just decided the other day, I was like, I'm just gonna get rid of everything that doesn't fit me anymore, because what am I doing here? My body has just changed. It changes whether don't lose the weight that you hoped or whatever, the shape of your body just kind of changes. It's not that. It just happens because you grew a human being. And so I think having these clothes that you feel good in and that are also like healthy for you is so important, but like really overlooked, right? Also, because women, I think, just especially in those postpartum days, like you're just trying to get by or whatever, and you're not thinking about yourself. But then I think we lose a little bit of our ourselves in it, and that's so unfortunate, because I think societally, like, the mom has always been last, and I'm like, I think we
Yes.
gotta put her first because the mom's health is, like, the number one indicator of the child's well-being.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm also grateful that there are so many women, like yourself in this space that are trying to do it, like pay it forward for the other moms who are feeling like alone and isolated and like they don't have clothes to wear and like everything is toxic, So it could be hopefully, do you have a daughter?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like for our daughters, hopefully, it will look so different for them and they'll feel like empowered and supported and like my body changed, but I have this great dress and I have this great cushion, to support me through the whole journey versus being like this is substandard and we don't deserve this.
Yeah. You're so right, like, mom being last, and my daughter just turned 2, and so I spent the whole first
Nice.
year in, like, survival mode and then kind of started, like, thriving last year and only recently have felt like, "Okay, it's, like, okay for me to pour into myself too," and was like, "What a silly thought," and, like, I would never want my daughter to feel that and, like, put herself last, and I think it's just human nature. Like, moms are the
Yeah.
nurturer, and some of us aren't good at receiving the nurturing. And so, like, just trying to make that easier and like empower other women and be like, hey, it doesn't have to be survival mode. Like, you can still take time for yourself. And I mean, I have interviewed some women who are so great at that and like they have boundaries and they're like, "No, I am taking a shower every day in postpartum and I am like doing these things
Yeah.
for myself." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what is that like?" Because I
Yeah.
did not have that. I'm like a reformed people pleaser, so I
Me
really
too.
struggled, and I love what you said earlier about motherhood being humbling because it was the most humbling experience ever because for the first time, especially having a C-section, like, I couldn't be fully self-sufficient, and that was very weird and new for me because I am the strong, independent type A that, like, does everything, and then I just had to, like, rely on my husband and, like, people to help us, and, like, thank God he figured out how to cook and was able to
Yep.
feed us, and, like, it worked out, and it's so funny because even though, like, those early postpartum days, like, they went smoothly and, like, nothing bad happened from me not controlling and being independent. It's still, like, so ingrained in my brain to, like, hold on to that with a death grip and
Yeah.
not, like, receive from other people, and that's I think so many moms are like that, and it's so easy to kind of, like, stay in that hole in motherhood, and I think that's part of, like, the isolation feeling too, because you feel like the weight of your entire family is on you, and, like, you just have to share that a little bit.
Oh, 100%. I really, empathize with all the things that you said. I think it's like even postpartum, I was definitely uh physically more debilitated than I realized I would be. And the first, I don't know, 0 to 7 days at home, I think I was like overtaken by the hormones. Like I was like, I can do anything. I am enlivened by this baby. And so I feel like, you wake up like drenched in sweat and
Oh
but
my
I
gosh.
felt like I was like, I'm not sleeping, but I can do all of this. And then I think in the second week was when I just had this total crash, probably as my body like processed all these hormones. And I was
Yeah.
like, how do I just sage my insides and just be rid of this because this is crazy. But at that point, sort of when coming down from all these hormones was when I felt like I've been really overdoing it. I've been like pushing myself way too hard to like keep the house clean and do whatever. And I actually think that that set me back because I'd be wanting so badly to have that independence and like doing the things that I used to do and being like, I gotta snap back, I had the baby, it's done now. But really, it, I think we societally and like individually then need to just embrace like it's a true recovery. And I don't feel like that message was really ever sent to me And then postpartum, my sister, who has 2 kids, had said something to me like, in other countries, like the family moves in and like cares for the mom and takes care of them, and it's just accepted. And here, I think it sort of feels like, even on Instagram, I feel like women are like posting in their hospital gowns in like full glam and like taking videos or whatever. And like, if that makes you feel good, that's amazing. Sometimes I just feel like it paints a picture that we had a baby and it's fine and nothing, and it is fine. But I think we need to embrace like it's a real recovery. It's a serious physical experience from trying to conceive through the fourth trimester and beyond. And like if you're breastfeeding like yourself, like there are physical challenges, just like there are in running marathons and being an athlete. And anytime you're doing something like with your body, it's a physical experience with significant demands on your body. And you need to place an emphasis on like the rest and the recovery. And I don't feel like that's emphasized or promoted, or even like in my doctor's visits, I don't really feel like that was like a message that continued. Um, and I just wish I don't know. I think we need to shift to that to make it like acceptable to be like, you're going to be healing, like, you had a major surgery, whether you had a C-section or a vaginal birth, like it takes time.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn about that 5-5-5 rule,
Yeah.
like, until after like 5 days in the bed, 5 days around the bed, 5 days near the bed. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
wish I had some sort of guide like that, or listen to something like that to say, like, yeah, that's okay. Like, you had a baby. This is how it should be.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how you felt with that, but I just felt like no one really talks about that it's like a real recovery. And they're like, "Oh, I had this baby and it's so cute and look at this is so fun." But it's like, no, you're healing. It's kind of like a vulnerable time. It's also a special family time. So I'm
Yeah.
curious your thoughts on all of this.
Yeah, so we actually did like no visitors for the first like month
Nice.
because
Nice.
I wanted that like safe space, and it's like very hard for me to feel vulnerable around visitors and all that, and we live far from family, so it was kind of easy to just say like give us some space. But we I had heard about the 555 thing, and like I went through midwifery care instead of like traditional medical route because I was trying for a home birth. And I've spoken to a lot of women who have like gone both paths. And I think when you go through care with a midwife, like that is definitely emphasized a lot more. And like,
Interesting.
yeah. So with a midwife, every prenatal appointment is an hour long. And like, there's an education component. It's not a 15-minute, like in and out with the OB, like pee in the cup, get out of here kind of thing. It's super like educational. And so we covered that. There's a book called The First 40 Days. That is written, it was written by somebody in like the Asian culture where they do that. The moms come and it has a bunch of like recipes as well. And it talks about how like those first 40 days, you should only eat warm foods and like stay in bed and be taken care of. And there's some cultures that say like, don't get out of bed for like the whole first month, which like, even though I knew all of this stuff, I was still going stir crazy, like knowing it and then
Yeah.
implementing it as somebody who
Two
is
different
like,
things.
yeah. And like, especially I think working for startups, I have that like kind of hustle culture, like mindset of just go, go, go. And I really would like derive my like sense of worth from being productive. And I've had to like really reframe what like productivity is for me. And I still like find opportunities to do that because like I started waking up at 5 a.m. this year because I just wanted to like have that time in the morning. And then one day my daughter decided to wake up at 5:30. I was like, wait, my time is gone. And I was like
Yeah.
sitting
You're
there
like, I
nursing
planned
my
for
school.
this. This is my penciled in time. Oh my
Fine.
goodness. I know. It
But I
always
was sitting
happens
there
like that.
nursing her and I was like kind of feeling guilty, and I was like, "Oh, I should
Yeah.
be working. I should like try to do that." And then I realized like, no, like this is productive too. Like I am nourishing her, I'm giving her
Yeah.
comfort. Like I've spent like I did the math and it's like over 700 days that I've spent nursing her. And like, that's a lot of
Wow.
hours. And like,
You should be so proud of yourself.
it
That's
is.
amazing. That's amazing.
Thank
Think
you.
about because over 700 days, that's like
Yeah.
2 years
Yeah.
almost.
She is, she turned 2 on November 18th. So yeah, it's been
That's
like
amazing.
26 months almost of nursing. And I'm like
That is
kind of ready to
very
stop, but
amazing.
also like emotional. And
Yeah.
it's just nice being able to like give her the antibodies and like give her the comfort. And when she falls down, like it's nice to be able to comfort her in that way. And like just the
Yeah.
whole cycle of breastfeeding is so cool. Like the feedback and the way the milk changes. And that was another
Yeah.
thing that like by going through midwifery, like we learned about all of that stuff. And like they brought in lactation consultants and like it's the whole process was so educational. But I fully understand that like a lot of women will never get to experience that. Like I'm very lucky I'm in a place that has probably 10 to 12 different midwife like clinics
Yeah.
just in this town. And like my friend across the country, her town has one midwife clinic and they weren't accepting patients when she was pregnant. And so it's just not an option for a lot of people. It's not even legal in some states to do like a home birth with a midwife. And so it's not an option for people. And if you go the traditional, like one size fits all medical route, you don't
Yeah.
get that education component. It's like, here's a pamphlet, there's the door, see you in 2 weeks to like pee in a cup again.
Yeah. Definitely. I agree. I definitely had that, and it's interesting because I think my husband and I are both healthcare people, and we were like, we're so familiar with the hospital, and I think too, when you do things like an anesthesia, um, I've done labor epidurals, been in scheduled C-sections, stat C-section, like you see so many things, that I sort of was like, yeah, I'm going to do an OBGYN and like the hospital, route, like, and we were kind of like, we don't need a doula, like we're the doula, like we don't, like we know how to advocate for ourselves, and I think like looking back, all of these support tools can make like a world of difference. And it's like, yeah, I definitely felt just humbled and not prepared, I don't think I would have I don't think I could have been convinced otherwise at the time of like, doing certain
Yeah.
making certain choices or doing certain things, but you look back and you're like, huh, like different people have completely different experiences. And that's amazing, really. Like the breastfeeding, it's a full-time job. It is no joke. I did it for 8.5 months and then I started weaning after like a bad bout of mastitis. I got really, really sick, and that was really
Oh,
humbling. And I was
so
back at
hard.
work. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was working in the hospital. I would pump like 5 times a day. Some days I wouldn't even see my daughter. It was really rough. And then I got mastitis at some point in the in the return to work journey, and I was sick for like 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, and I was like, that was rough. And then I also look back on that because I had worked on with a lactation consultant to wean after that point. Um, and I was like, I wish I found a way to make breastfeeding part of my life in a non like negative way, or like when I was working with her, I got to the point where I was breastfeeding twice a day, like once in the morning and once at night. And I was like, I could have been doing this, you know, why was I killing myself to pump 5 times a day at work, which was really hard because when you work in an OR, a sterile environment
My
too,
gosh.
it's like leaving the OR, taking your top off, putting down the pumping bra, strapping in, pumping, strapping back up, storing the milk, doing it again. And it's just hard.
Yeah.
Um, And so I'm like, I didn't have to do that. But at the time, I was like, I have to do this, you know? And I think I just could have, like, there are options and it's like not a one size fits all. And I probably could have done it for longer had I not sort of like put all this pressure on myself to do this aggressive, like, she has to drink all breast milk all day, every day. And
Yeah.
it's like, why? I don't know why I did that to myself. With my life situation, it was not the best for me, like mentally either. So I
Yeah.
applaud you for sure because breastfeeding also involves hormones and time management and tons of stuff.
Yeah, I would not have been able to do it if I didn't work from home. And like I don't know how women do it when they have to go to an office and pump. And like I have taken a couple of work trips where I've had to like pump on the work trip and it was horrible. Like
Yeah.
everything about it, like I felt self-conscious being like, oh, I gotta like step out of this meeting and go pump because I feel like my boobs are about to explode. And like now I have all this breast milk. I'm like, what do I do
Yep.
with it? I need a freezer in my room. And like I was also just like woefully unprepared for how much milk I would pump because I was exclusively nursing and like my daughter wouldn't really take a bottle. And so I worked from home. I was like, whatever, I'll straight from the source. I hated pumping too. Like I was never the kind of person who could like get a lot whenever I would pump. And so when I went down to San Diego for a board meeting, I took we were using like silicone reusable breast milk storage bags. And I like took a few.
Yeah.
I was only going to be there for like one night. And she was like 10 months old. So eating some solids, but still nursing probably like 5 or 6 times a day. And I started pumping while I was down there. And I guess just being away from her, like I was pumping so much. And I filled up the bags. I had to like DoorDash more bags
Oh my
because
gosh.
like I don't
Did
even
you
know
have
what
this
to do with
series Chill Milk Chiller?
this.
Have you heard
No,
of this company?
no.
Really? Oh my gosh, this would have helped you in your moment.
Yes.
Series Chill is another mom invented company. The
I
founder's name
love
is
it.
Lisa. They're so lovely. We did a giveaway with them very early on, and she was very supportive of us. And she invented a milk chiller that's like toxin free, and
Yeah.
you put the milk in it, and you can pump directly into like the cartridge, and you put the
Cool.
milk inside this cartridge. It kind of looks like a big tumbler, but you
Yeah.
put ice in it just at the bottom a little bit, and then it's good for 36 hours. Like you don't need a
Wow.
fridge. Yes. And so
That's
it
so
really
cool.
helps a lot of women because, especially like you're on your business trip and, then it's like, what do I do with this milk? But then if you just keep adding more ice, it just keeps it chilled. So, like,
Oh my God.
TSA, whatever, the travel. Yeah. So you just don't need
Yeah.
a fridge, but that's
That's
stressful.
so cool.
Your
Yeah.
experience was, I'm sure, very stressful.
I literally like put my milk in the fridge of this like random office that we were
Oh my
in
gosh.
because we're a fully remote company. And so we used like a rented office space. And
Yeah.
like this was,
Yeah.
I've like told this story before, but this was actually like the catalyzing moment for me where I was like, I am going to make these dresses because we had the
Yeah.
board meeting. I had to pump right after the board meeting. And like the board was still there meeting with our CEO. And I just like, there was no mother's room. There was no one around. So I like found a random office to pump in and I couldn't get my pumps in my dress. I had to just like disrobe from the top. So I'm sitting there like topless in this stranger's office. And then I had the milk and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this. And so I found their kitchen and like put it in their freezer. And I was like, if somebody finds this, they're going to be so confused.
Yeah. Like, what's going on there? I
What
know
is this?
these are the real motherhood moments, that you're like, well, this is what I got to do right now. So I know,
Very
like in the
humbling.
OR. Oh yeah, in the OR, we have to have like, breaks. You have to leave to pump. And there are, some care teams we work with are super great about breaks and others are not. And sometimes I just be like, I have to pump. So whether you're a man or a woman, that's the reality of what I'm going to be doing right now. So
Yeah.
I need you to come in here because unless you want milk to be squirted all over you at some point, I
Yeah.
gotta go. for like 15 to 20 minutes. I gotta go. It's just the reality of it.
It is so wild the things that moms go through. And I, like you were saying earlier, I really just hope that it's different for our daughters when
Yeah.
and I think it will
Yeah.
be because it's different for us than it was for our moms. Like I talk to older women whose kids are grown now and they say like, "Oh my gosh, I wish that I would have had all these products when I was nursing. Like none of this existed. There were no mother's rooms, there were no accommodations." And so like it is trending in the right direction, but we still have a long ways to go.
Yeah. No, we're gonna make it happen for them, like they were just gonna plow forward and just do it. And if I have a second baby, I can't wait to wear your dress.
Yes, definitely. And I am going to continue sharing your pillow with everyone. We are
Yeah.
not having a second, but uh,
Yeah.
definitely definitely sharing it because it's such a cool invention and the non-toxic standpoint is my favorite.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. It's been good and it's really like every time, we get a DM or a text message or an email or like a review, like sometimes I read them and I want to cry because when I invented it, I was like, it shouldn't be like this. And if I could just help one other person not have to like feel this pain or suffer through this, it
Yeah.
will be worth it. Um, and now we have like 65-star reviews and counting, and like most of them are strangers. So it's like really nice to feel like, okay, like I did it, like that it doesn't have to be like this terrible for other women. So it's
Yeah.
good to feel like despite all the craziness and terrifyingness of being a founder, of these toxin free brands, it's good. It's worth
It's
it.
worth it is. Well, this has
Yeah.
been so amazing, Danielle. Thank you so
Thank
much for taking the time. I really
Yes.
appreciate it. Tell everyone what your website is if anybody needs a pillow.
Yeah, tushpresent.com. And we are the Tush Present on every social media outlet. And then I document my crazy journey on Dan Zam Figures It Out if you're interested in that or need some motivation for your own, crazy
But
startup endeavor. So this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Tony, for having me.